The Whisky War, also known as the Whisky Islands Dispute, is one of the world's most unique and long-standing territorial disputes. It involves a small, uninhabited area between Greenland, an autonomous territory of Denmark, and Canada. Despite its name, the dispute is not about whiskey itself, but rather over sovereignty of two tiny, barren islands in the Nares Strait. Let's explore how this unusual conflict began and evolved. What are your thoughts on territorial disputes? Let us know in the comments. In the early 1900s, Greenland and Canada were both territories with undefined boundaries. While Greenland was controlled by Denmark, Canada was part of the British Empire, and later became an independent country. The dispute dates back to 1900, when the Danish government started making claims over the area near the Nares Strait. At the time, the islands and rocks in the region were poorly charted, and their sovereignty was unclear. Have you ever heard of a territorial dispute like this? Share your thoughts with us. The treaty signed in the 1930s between Denmark and Canada did not explicitly address the sovereignty of the islands in the Nares Strait, leaving the issue unresolved for many years. By 1951, Denmark and Canada were both asserting control over the islands. The Canadians argued that the islands belonged to Canada, while the Danes claimed them for Greenland. For several decades, there was little tangible conflict, but tensions simmered just below the surface. As the issue remained unresolved, both countries focused on other matters until the 1980s, when the conflict resurfaced. This led to the Quirky phase of the Whisky War. Would you side with Canada or Denmark in this unique territorial debate? Let us know in the comments. In the late 1980s, the dispute became known as the Whisky War, a term that arose because of the humorous and light-hearted way in which both countries responded to the territorial claims. Danish and Canadian officials would regularly place bottles of alcohol, whiskey, and schnapps on Hans Island as a symbolic gesture of sovereignty. While this playful interaction generated media interest, it highlighted the underlying reality that the sovereignty issue had not been resolved. The Whisky War became a quirky piece of international diplomacy. What do you think of using humor to resolve serious disputes? Comment below with your opinion. The 1990s and 2000s saw both Canada and Denmark make serious efforts to resolve the dispute diplomatically. The countries met several times and initiated talks aimed at settling the issue peacefully. However, despite these efforts, no formal agreement was reached. The delay in resolution was mainly due to other international priorities for both countries, including Arctic exploration and climate change concerns. Do you think that the issue was blown out of proportion, or should it have been resolved sooner? Share your thoughts with us. The situation began to change in the 2000s as the global focus on the Arctic increased due to climate change, resource exploration, and emerging shipping routes. Both Canada and Denmark recognized the importance of addressing the dispute to foster cooperation in the region. In 2005, they created a joint task force aimed at settling the issue. By 2022, Canada and Denmark reached an agreement to share the sovereignty of Hans Island, effectively ending the Whisky War. Do you think that this kind of territorial dispute could have been resolved without the use of humor? Let us know your opinion in the comments. The Whisky War, although initially a light-hearted territorial dispute, became a symbol of successful international diplomacy. Over the years, it showed how humor, patience, and mutual respect could be employed to resolve even the most trivial-seeming conflicts. Today, the two countries have agreed to jointly manage Hans Island, and the Whisky War is a thing of the past. Do you think this resolution sets an example for other international disputes? Share your thoughts below.